Well, good morning again, and welcome back to Mirador Television. An interesting morning ahead for you, we hope. We have put through the link to Roger Highfield of the Science Museum Group, who is going to chat to us this morning. He will also be available to you on, let's see, what date is he scheduled to speak in the flesh, as it were, in Lewis, is on Saturday the 13th of May at 9:50 in the morning, and that's down at the church that is now a community centre, All Saints. So get your tickets, if you will. Now, he hasn't popped up yet in our holding pattern, as it were. So we'll just chat away until such time as he does. And if by 25 to, we'll double check to make sure that our link has got through. It is not always 100% for the early part. But one of the things that I am doing at the moment, which is very scientific, is Kevin, who looks after the bar here, refreshes the taps and the barrels and so on and so forth each Tuesday. And he has opted to give me the job of checking that everything is okay and it tastes all right, which makes me one of the few people that is able to have a drink before the sun is over the yardarm. But as they say, the sun is over the yardarm somewhere in the world. So why not have a little tipple? A little tipple indeed. Right, but yesterday we had a fascinating chat to Tom Clark about poverty and its effects. Something of an expert, and some of the things that came out were quite interesting, and some of the things that perhaps our leaders either aren't aware of or don't want to be aware of, because it's too much of a problem. Now, I'm going to chat to you while I'm going to try and just double check to make sure that we on chat here. Has it gone? I'm not absolutely sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send it again. So bear with me while I have a little tipple. And bear with me again while I send the invite. Soaring around the world. And here we go. And that should do it. And we should go on to the send, and it seems to have sent. All right, okay. Yes, we have. We got one at 9:24 and one 9:30. So certainly, it has gone. It has left our shores, as it were, and I hope that it has reached the appropriate destination. And we're ready to chat when Roger is ready to chat. In the meantime, at around about 10 or so, Stuart Dolby will join me and have a chat about some of the things that are happening locally, particularly as far as the North Quarter is concerned, North Street Quarter, I should say. So we hope that we're going to get Roger Highfield, a very interesting man and a very interesting topic. you can get tickets to see him live, as it were, and the issues that he is going to talk about is really that is a new era of personalized medicine. Now, there are some people like me who are skeptics about whether we've actually gone too fast, too far, so that we've abandoned some of the old principles. And is this going to actually take us beyond reach, or is it actually going to be a savior of the human race? Difficult to know. But we're looking forward to Roger if he gets the link, and if he pops up in the on our screen. It's one of those things which you it's one of those things which I think that in many ways science leaves us behind, and we have to be very careful is our appreciation of it, because it's easy to be critical of things that, for instance, look at the hoo-ha that COVID created. Just want to make sure that we got the right address. That we sent it to the right place. Yes, that's right. That's the link address that we've got. So I hope that he's there and will join us very, very shortly. In the meantime, apart from me having a little tipple, it's 9:30 in the morning. This is it keeps me going. Let us just tell you about the Science Museum. Sorry, not the Science Museum. The speakers. The speakers forum, the speakers festival, and we should have a little thing that which would tell you what it's about. But quite often finding these things is a bit of a problem. So what I'll do is I will take me off. People, and some of them is let me just tell you, John Dickey, who is a world expert on the Italian and Sicilian mafia, on Wendy Joseph QC, a former murder and homicide judge at the Old Bailey, Simon Jenkins, the former editor of the Evening Standard and the Times, Alison Weir, the biggest selling female historian in the UK, and Martin Brunt, formerly of Sky News, the crime correspondent. All of them have written first-class books. All of them are going to appear at the Lewis Speakers Festival to talk about their books and about their careers and their backgrounds. And if you want to get tickets, you can go to call the box office. Now, I know that most people don't keep a pen, but I'll give you the number anyway. It's 0333666336, and that's where you get hold of the people that will sell you a ticket for one or more. You can get a season's pass for a thing, so that you go to all of them. Well, I think you've got to be have a passion to listen to each of these speakers, because they're each different with each different interests. But they are first-class people. They are first-class authors. They are people of vast experience who are writing about what they know, and that is a very, very worthwhile a way to go. It looks as if perhaps we're having a bit of a problem getting through to Roger. So while we're trying that, we'll perhaps find something else for you to take a look at. Let's see. There are all sorts of things that we could show you, but I don't want to sort of break into them. If shall we? Well, since I'm tippling, let's have a little program about a tipple until such time as we can go to Roger.
Over the road from the shops, held up by ship's timbers, is the Gardener's Arms. There seems to be a tradition in Lewes, although no one admits to it, of omitting the epithet pub or tavern. This pub is called by locals simply the Gardener's. And the Gardener's it was. The origins of this pub go back to when it was an ordinary house, owned by a gardener. Often, after work, he would invite other gardeners into his front room for a drink. Eventually, it made sense to formalize the ritual, so it turned into a pub. The Gardener's is a true pub. Unusual now, it only serves pork pies and sausage rolls. Yet each year it's in the top tier of finalists for Pub of the Year. Stood proudly on the riverbanks. Harvey's Brewery, the key industry of the town. The bloody high street of a tiny town.
Man would give up pubs for Lent or something, wouldn't you? Well, think on. He even gets absorbed in how the pubs were in January's time. Luddite.
Flanked by the church, the rectory, and the people's homes, stands the inn. In its shade and beneath its roof, men of all degrees and of all opinions meet in comradeship and comfort. Walk through any English market town and you'll find the inn at the centre of its life. On market day, the people from the country around meet there to discuss the trend of prices, their children's health and their home affairs. It's the same in the villages. When the sun warms the earth, they sit outside and watch the world go by. At the English inn today, there is a hospitality that to the host is just as much a sacred charge as it was to the monks and barons in the Middle Ages, who first gave bread and ale to travellers. Often the only sanctuary in out-of-the-way parts, the monasteries had a lodge open to pilgrims and other wayfarers. Later, these lodges became separate establishments and were eventually run as inns, under such signs as the Pilgrim's Inn. One example of monastic origin is the Bull, which gets its name from the papal bull, or bill, not the animal. These inns of England have seen history happen in their yards. Pilgrims and warriors have trodden their stairways. Here, medieval knights refreshed themselves on their journeys to the Crusades, to fight under the banner of St. George. The inns have preserved much of England's architecture. The early inn has preserved some of the finest carvings and treasures. Like the church, it was a sanctuary. Hence, most of these carvings have a religious meaning.
English sparkling wines are beginning to win an enviable reputation across the globe, and that reputation is turning into sales. British supermarket chain Waitrose has reported a 188% increase in sales of English sparkling wine last year, and that trend is expected to continue. The soil and climatic conditions in southern England are remarkably similar to those of the Champagne region in France. So much so that leading French champagne house Taittinger has bought land in Kent and has begun producing English sparkling wine. But the owners of English vineyards are not prepared to take second place. Ridgeview Estate Wines in Ditchling has been producing English sparkling wine since 1994. And recently, the company received the prestigious accolade of having its wine served by the Queen to Chinese Premier Xi Jinping at a state dinner. Ridgeview is a family business which has a strong sense of history when it comes to its products. The vineyard's trademark is Merit, named in honour of Englishman Christopher Merit. This wine pioneer made a presentation to the Royal Society in London in 1662, explaining the process of making sparkling wines. That was 30 years before the French began producing champagne. Last year, Ridgeview produced a bumper crop and has similar ambitions for this year. The product can be seen at a variety of produce events in the region, notably Brighton and Hove's Food and Drink Fair in May. And the winemaker plans to repeat the success of last year when it introduced its range of sparkling wines to New Yorkers. Want to check out the claims that Ridgeview makes? There are plenty of stockists within the Lewes district. As one might suspect, it's available at Harvey's, but also Larder in Ditchling, Middle Farm on the road to Eastbourne, and of course the English Wine Centre at Drusilla's Roundabout. These successes have created a rush to develop new vineyards in Sussex. Licence applications last year were up by 40%. It's not just sparkling wines that are gaining a reputation. Still wines have also been around a long time. Both are now beginning to take the French market by storm, as demonstrated by the French purchase of acreage in Kent. The key question now is if growth will mean a larger and more expansive English wine industry, or a homegrown luxury product suitable for big and glittering occasions. For the moment, only time will tell. Trevor, where's my drink? Lalla Daniels of South Downs Television at Ridgeview Vineyards, tasting a true competitor of French champagne. So next up on Food Glorious Food, a new way to sell wines in Lewes. Symposium has a friendly, laid-back atmosphere with staff who clearly have a passion for wine. Symposium has a limited range of Sussex wines, but what they have is top drawer, and its range of quality grape types is within most budgets. Whether it's the cheese and meat platter, a single malt scotch, crunchy local bread or a glass or two of decent claret, this wine bar has found a unique way to sell its wines. And in today's world of big is better, the Symposium has found its niche.
Hey guys, in this video I'll show you how to prepare at home an incredible liquor. It's gin. For this you need 1 liter of 50% alcohol, 17 grams of juniper, berries must be blue and I've smashed them with rolling pin. Then you need 7 grams of coriander seeds, 2.5 gram of orange peel, 1.5 gram of lemon peel, 1.5 gram of cassia bark, and a pinch of hyssop, a pinch of anise, a pinch of fennel, a pinch of licorice. Fill up the jar with alcohol and all ingredients and shake it. I let it infuse for about 6 days in the dark place, shaking it every day. After 7 days of infusing, it's time to distill it. I gotta use a simple moonshine still. I've dismounted a metal gauze from the shelf for better flavoring. By using a gauze, I filter the infusion into the boiler and add water. You need to get a 33% ABV liquor. The smell is incredible. Let's start distilling. I've set up a simple moonshine still, so only the cool box is working. Temperature's rising and I see first drops. I separate about 20 milliliters of 4 shots just for safe. I've set out the range at 1000 watts and start separating of gin. It's already half a liter, so let's check out the smell. It's very fresh. It's like Smell of fur. I've got about 600 milliliters and an alcoholometer reads 42% ABV. Let's stop separating, cause we have tails. ABV of gin is equal to 67%. I stretch it till 45%, live for 1 week and test it. Let's start testing our homemade gin. It stretched till 45% and it was infusing for 12 days. First of all, I'll test it in pure form. The aroma is very rich. It has nice, tender and harmonious aroma. The main player in flavor development is juniper. Not strong odor, but it's mild. And the juniper is contrasted with coriander. Let's taste. This also holds true for the taste. Taste is tender and mild. It's not a strong kind of gin. This one is tender and mild. I like it in pure form. So now let's test how tasty it's with tonic. Classic gin in the ratio of 1 to 2. Well, let's taste. Delicious. Now I know how I drink it. Incredible combination. You can feel light bitterness, but it's just the right taste. It goes very light. The ratio of 1 to 2 is nice. Taste it. You know you can drink it all cause it's silky and freshalizing. As for me, the combination of this gin with Schweppes tonic is ideal. In conclusion, I'd like to say that I like this recipe very much. The combination of gin and Schweppes tonic is delicious. The taste of G&T is tender and it combines with all the herbs very nice. Just try to make it by yourself, guys. Thanks for watching this video. Thumbs up for new recipes, subscribe to my channel. See ya!
Well, there we are. We've filled until 8 o'clock our a slot that we should have been talking to Roger Highfield. We are in touch with him by email, but for some reason the link, which is normally very reliable, has not gone through this morning. So the next thing on the agenda is Stuart Dolby, who has been doing some digging on the North Street Quarter and one or two other things. As Stuart gets around, he talks to a lot of people, and one or two myself as well. And between us, we try hard with our limited resources to stay up to what's important in this town. But we particularly try to focus on issues that would be of interest to, say, somebody in New Zealand who's watching, as well as our local people. And that's what we're aiming to do this morning, because it's all a question of planning. It's all a question of abuse or otherwise of the system. And if he'll get the itch out of his trousers and sit down, we'll have a little chat. Here's in a minute. Where are you? He's gone again.
No, I'm just making myself a cup of coffee.
He's making himself a cup of coffee. The beer isn't good enough for him.
I expect you to do this. Need some coffee. Right. Okay.
Right.
Hang on a sec.
Here we come. Here he comes.
Past you.
He's making himself comfortable with his coffee and
my papers
and his papers. And
you'll get your claptrap out of the way.
Well, actually, my boy, that's so you can see yourself eventually.
Oh,
and we should be able to get on some sort of a stream here with any luck at all.
There we are. You can see me.
There we are. Well, you're on the mainstream, and
it's an amazing compliments by the hotel staff saying blue is my colour. It suits me. So here we are. Right.
So yes, there you are in all your glory. In all
right.
your glory,
Good.
he's here.
Good morning, everybody. Normally at this stage we would be doing conversation with Stuart, but the guest we were hoping to come along is not going to not be able to make it. So Keith and I are just going to have a little bull session about a very controversial thing that's going on in Lewes town, and that's called a company called Human Nature has got plans, if we can get planning permission from the South Downs planning authorities. They want to actually there is a semi-derelict area called the Phoenix along River Ouse on the northern quarter. And what they want to do is build 700 homes in the neighbourhood, the vast majority of which will be apartments, etc., and so forth and so on. It would also involve development of expected to generate 381 jobs, of which 173 will be new jobs. The Phoenix will provide 10,000 square meters of commercial and employment space in healthcare, light industry, creative business, hotel and hospitality, and a small amount of retail. I'll go into this in further detail as we progress. But this plan or this project has run into amazing opposition before it's even started. And I should tell you what's happened. Well, the local Sussex paper came up last Friday with an extraordinary article which wouldn't normally plan, which said, the actual thing says, Phoenix plan objections, thousands of sign petition against tree felling. That's what will involve the Human Nature project. And I'll just expand on that for a moment for you. Right, the article says, thousands signed petition against tree felling plans, against the Human Nature's plans. And it reads, thousands of people signed a petition against the housing development plans to cut down numerous trees in the town. Real estate developer Human Nature plan an application to the South Downs National Park Authority for another underused development for mixed development of Phoenix Industrial Estate. The company is planning to cut down the trees on the industrial estate, on the potential industrial, and all the trees along the Phoenix Causeway. On finding out about these plans, Anne Silvestri started the petition in opposition, cutting down the trees, and the petition has been signed by 3,200 people. Anna said, these mature trees host a wildfire, birds, insects, small mammals, provide oxygenation and heavy traffic. And and constitute a valuable amenity of puny landscaping developers, so forth and so on. Right. But the tree felling is not only what the protesters up in arms out. There is a whole catalogue of what they're opposed to. And I may read some of them if I may. One, just a minute.
So the community is pretty uptight about this, I take it.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
uptight
yeah,
about it,
okay.
but for various reasons, which I'm just going to try and expand, which I've
Right.
written down here. First of all, well, the housing is said to be, it's basically, that's what this is. This bit. Right, what they want to do is 700 homes in the neighbourhood, the vast majority which will be apartments, bedrooms, 2-bedroom homes, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms homes, and so forth for older people who are looking downsize. National Park. Now, for starters, who are these houses being built for home? Will they be second homes for people? Lewis has now become a second home.
Dormitory,
yeah.
Vacation.
And you know about the whole second home. In Cornwall, for example, 40% of the housing is a second home. Suffolk is the same. Now, Lewis doesn't want to have second homes. Actually, I shouldn't be saying about this because I had a second home when I first came to Lewis. But
we'll forgive you.
Sorry?
We'll forgive you.
Yeah, fine, forgive me. Or what about DFLs? They are coming down here in droves, but it doesn't even mention this, that it will only be for the housing purpose, and it goes into the whole housing things. Next upon the whole thing, it keeps rattling on, but affordable housing. But affordable to who? For who? Affordable for who? They don't make it absolutely. Back in the day, I was involved in one of these projects in London, in the green space behind prison in London, which was being developed. I had to stop development of this inappropriate housing, and the mayor then came along and he said, "We're going to have affordable housing on the thing." And I said, "Well, what does that mean?" He said, "Oh, 60% of the market rate." I said, "Are you mad, Mr. Mayor?" I said, "These people live in Harlesden and Ealing. They haven't got 60% to actually, there's no use to them. They can't even find that much."
Yeah.
And so we haven't got any kind of thing here about it.
There's no base rate to measure it by.
Finally, their old what is called a semi-derelict, the old industry down there in the Phoenix. Do you remember back in the day?
Yeah.
I mean, there was a great number of companies down there and so forth.
Yeah.
And in fact, the person who was going to come to talk to us, Tony Webb, he has got a wood restoring business, furniture and so on and so forth. And he's very, very worried that he's going to lose his So that's another thing. And now we get, human nature is not just a real estate outfit. It's also a bunch of fantasies. I mean, for example, they say here, these living at the Phoenix, will enjoy lower utility bills due to energy efficient homes. Really? Energy efficient homes? Blimey, O'Reilly, I know about renewable energy, as you know.
Yeah.
And it's saying the data led by renewable energy grid. There is no renewable energy grid, you major idiots. Saving around 10 to 20% in utility bills. God, blimey. The man who's actually written this flyer must be out of his mind. So we've got all reasons for
probably a PR firm from London that knows nothing about it.
Yeah. Quite
yeah.
so, yeah. So it's really quite an issue here in this, and then it gets into the whole housing situation, and you know, how many houses do we need? And they go on about, but the population is aging, but the working folk is growing, so these young people can get housing. But the housing here is very tricky, because I said that them said to me that the waiting list for housing is 1,000 houses, which may or may not be correct. But it turns out that half of those are people not going for first houses; they're going for trading up, getting new houses,
right,
rather than new houses.
Yeah.
So
they move out of theirs, and the one they've got at the moment goes on the market.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So I don't know what quite is going to happen, but people are really riled up about it, aren't they?
Yes. Now, without any specifics, Stuart, I was told that the requirement from the South Downs Park Association, which was authority, which is basically in charge of all this thing, is that you have 50% of quote affordable housing, and that this plan only provides 40% anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
But affordable, the question is affordable for who?
Yes.
You know, are these houses set for millionaires, or are they set for people who haven't got 2 pennies to rub together?
Exactly.
What is affordable housing? What is the definition?
Now, this plan was revealed, what, 3 days ago?
I think it's about 3 days ago, but it's now been extended to May. It was going to be enacted on April 24th.
Right.
21st, and now it's gone back to May 24th.
To give them time to tamper with them and to look at them.
Time to get right more fantasies out. Oh dear.
Yes. Dear. So you're I mean, when you first came across this the other day, your correspondent, as it were, your chum, who is going to come on this morning, is he chapter and verse? He actually had quite a lot of objections, did he not?
Yes.
I mean, can you run through some of those things that he was worrying him? Now, I think we have to be careful. Is worrying him specifically as an individual businessman? We don't know that this is widespread, but there were some interesting issues there, weren't there?
Well, one issue is that, you know, his business is going to disappear, obviously, because they're still working down there. They still have what's so forth and so on. And perhaps they will be phased out eventually. But first of all, and also another thing is that is a historic site, isn't it? The old Phoenix.
Oh, absolutely.
It was an absolute historic.
Yeah.
So why are they going to get rid of a nice historic house rather than having some kind of, I don't know, some kind of.
Yes, I mean, actually, the Everys, who ran the Phoenix, were very, very socially conscious people. I mean, for instance, did you know that they had free lunch meals for all their workers?
Yeah, I can quite believe that.
And they I believe, I don't know whether it's the sports ground and the paddock sports ground. I've got a feeling it was, but they built a cricket pavilion there. Mostly with the metal products that they produce. But also, if you go and sit and look at the waves in Brighton, the chances are that you're sitting in a shelter that was built by the Everys. It was a big operation. Gave a lot of work to this town. But also, I mean, based on what you're talking about at the moment and what they're trying to do to it and how they're trying to help people to get onto the ladder and so on and so forth, is these people who are industrialists, not social pioneers, as it were, did an awful lot to help in that regard.
But also there are other problems about the traffic. I mean, there's not any parking down there. So how are people going to get home? You know, and so forth and so on. And secondly, you've got this whole question of traffic going through the town and so forth and so on. But the last thing in the world we need is more flipping traffic. There's nowhere to park it. I mean,
well, I mean, the parking system, I think, it's amazing how our elected representatives can pay attention to what they think is important and not what other people think are important. The parking issue in this town has been controversial for years. But like everywhere else in this parking issue, it generates cash. So they generate cash, which they take to Eastbourne, spend in Eastbourne, and here it costs an arm and a leg to park, but also, as the traders say, is nobody can hop out of their car anymore and hop into a shop.
Well, you're straying a bit off the thing here, but I mean, going into with Eastbourne gives you a whole lot of things to think about. First of all, the Eastbourne County Council, whatever it is, District Council, is absolutely bumming skint, and they raid this town because it's not skint. And second, and I told you the one about the pensions, didn't I?
Yes, you did. But it bears repeating.
Well, when the amalgamation took place, 80 people were left in the Southover house who were working for the District Council. And they had to stay there because the pensions were fed by the council tax. Okay, so they had to stay there because of the pensions situation. And time passed, and it turns out that the Eastbourne found the most expensive financial advice on pensions on the globe. So they actually they brought these people out of the Southover house at the most incredible expense to the taxpayer. God, dear, oh dear. Well, that story is from the recent previous mayor, our good friend.
Yes. I mean, I think though as you say, not the local paper anymore, but one that actually it does look at things in Lewis, they got hold of it as well. So it's a fairly widespread knowledge. To me, it's a question of you've raised the issue: is how is this being interpreted? And it looks as if it's frightened the business community down there.
Well, I would think it would. Yeah, it would. Well, such as the business community is now. But I mean, yes, of course it has. Yeah, I mean, these developers are just interested in money, and that is another point, because one very, very prospect who said they had a prospect up in Doncaster, and apparently, as far as he could understand, they were funded by grants because they say we are green, renewable, therefore we get all these subsidies and grants. And I got my doubts about this, to be perfectly honest. I don't. And they got 42 million quid. Now, how much are this lot going to get? And where's the money coming from? If they're called human nature and they get all these subsidies for being human or being whatever it is, I got a real feeling that I keep asking to this person, what do you think? He said, I think you're absolutely right. Where's the money coming from?
Is that the overall estimated cost, 42 million?
Well, that's the one that the previous project.
Well, what's the one down here?
Well, we don't know.
It's
not. We've not been told.
Right. So this application has been made on half-ass
a friend of mine, I don't know whether this is true or not, but a friend of mine, actually, at my behest, went to company's house, right, and looked up and he said to me, they haven't got a penny. That is yes, that's what he said to me. I tried to do it for myself, but I'd fallen out with company's house.
Who doesn't? They are the modern dictators. Company's house. Everybody.
Anyway, Keith, I think that's enough with what we said about that.
Well, before we leave it, because I think it is terribly important, Stuart, is this whole thing started some years ago, and I'm trying hard to remember what the trigger was that the Phoenix Industrial Estate came up for grabs. Can you remember?
No, there was two. Well, there have been two companies before that have tried it, but I think the second company come unstuck because they couldn't fund the flood defences.
Right.
Isn't that the case?
Yeah. Now, explain that, because as you pointed out, we've got an awful lot of people that have come into Lewis who wouldn't know A, the background, and B, this has been an ongoing thing and it keeps on changing dramatically. So what's this bit about the flood defences?
Well, I think you remember back in 2000 when the town was flooded out, that became very traumatised, the whole town.
Yes.
Why did it happen? And there was some questions that it goes up at Nehaven, and there was a great storage up in Uckfield.
Right.
And in Highfield, they actually undid the lock, and we got flooded out, and it came off the hills. But we have got a thing about floods, and and that second company was the man mandated to actually build flood defences.
Right.
And you'll see they're not here; they're on the other side of the Ouse, but I don't think they're doing the on the north side.
Right.
I wouldn't be sure. But what do you think? I mean,
well, I once again, because this is also so new, only 2 or 3 days old, I'm like you, picking up bits and pieces from here and there. But my understanding is that part of this contract is that a contribution or attention is paid to flood defences. Because even though flood defences were put into place after the disaster of 2000, they weren't total. And there is still some worry about the flood defences.
Well, I think there is. I think there's always going to be the case. I mean, there was huge floods about 10 or 15 years ago, but we've got a complete sort of neurotic. We're very neurotic about the whole, and quite rightly so. I mean, it's very dangerous apart from anything else.
Yes.
And now we've got this added thing of sewage and being dumped in the whole river Ouse and so on.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean,
that's one of the top ones in the country, Lewis. Yeah. The town everybody wants to live in, and all this sewage is being dumped into the Ouse.
All we can say is,
don't go paddling in
please don't go paddling in the or swimming in the Ouse.
Now, Stuart, I think that the follow-up to this is, first of all, we hope that your guy will come on and outline his concerns, because he is an active businessman, as I understand it, and he's going to be affected. It's easy for anybody, whether it's the council, whether it's us, or so on, to talk in general terms without actually being faced with these things.
Well,
this guy's being faced with them, isn't he?
I've got a plan actually to get some people on the other side who are supporting these. And obviously, I would think these are the Green people.
Right.
We do know some Green people who've talked to us before, and they might actually say, because the Greens, in my opinion, are totally incompetent, but it would be worth seeing what their take is on this project.
Yes,
don't you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think. Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is some of the things that we've said is that we've been studiously ignored by the politicians. I don't blame them, because we've given them a real stick. But we must offer the right of reply, and I think that you'll probably approach the district council and say, put somebody up and come and talk to us about it and give your point of view. In fact, if we can get somebody from the developer, we're perfectly happy to give them a voice.
Apparently, my source says he won't talk to us.
Won't talk to anybody.
We won't talk to us.
Yeah.
Well, it's a sign that we're doing a very good job.
Well, exactly. I mean, do you mind if I just go on one of my famous red herrings? Is part of our raison d'etre at Mirador Television is to be a watchdog. To keep an eye on the local council, which becomes increasingly difficult because they ain't here anymore. And from time to time, I run some of our historic things where I say, give us back our town. It's absolutely essential that we get that town back, and no politician will address that. They're all perfectly happy to have it in Eastbourne. That's why I say none of the above. I have no confidence whatsoever in local politicians, or at least political parties. There are some individuals who are very good, but political parties.
I find the district council people very, very incompetent. I mean, just one example, right? Over there is the tourist, right?
Yes.
It needs a bloody lick of paint, and that whole block is absolutely owned by the district council, and it's left to be derelict. They're like slums.
Absolutely.
Why can't they fix that up?
Yeah, it looks as if a bunch of rats have gnawed at the basement.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's very nice for bloody tourists to come along. You know, they might get a head, something knocked on the head. You know.
Yeah.
What else have they done? I mean, well, we won't go into the cars or whatever, the racial cars. We've done that one before, haven't we?
But I really do think that I was saying that is to be a watchdog, and part of the reason is Harvard University is not to be trifled with. Is the Harvard University do an investigation and a review? One pays attention to it because they do a very, very good job, and they've got the resources to do it. And they have done, both in the United States and in the United Kingdom, a very deep survey. And what they found was, with the shrinkage of local media, and local media has shrunk. The Sussex Express used to be on School Hill. BBC used to have somebody here, the famous John Eccles, who God bless his soul, passed away a couple of years or so ago. John was at absolutely everything, asking all sorts of questions. All that has shrunk, all that's gone, all that's disappeared. Just once in a while, the BBC sends somebody. Once in a while, you find one of these people from the local paper, so-called local paper, turning up. But generally speaking, is as in everywhere else, so local media has shrunk. And what they found is that in those areas where it has shrunk, which is almost everywhere, is that, first of all, the efficiency of the local council goes AWOL. They are not efficient anymore.
What do you mean they haven't got journalists of the society?
No. Where the journalists aren't there asking questions is the council. It ceases to be efficient.
Well, you know why that is? Because basically the loss of advertising. I mean, back in the day, you know, the advertising you could actually look at my own album mixer. Basically, because it went global, it made a lot of money, and therefore it could buy the best people around. It's like a Premier Football Club. You can buy the best people.
Yeah, right.
Now, these people, once they have the little ads, you know, little ads disappear. Yes. No income.
Yes.
I mean, you look at the Sussex. Well, they have got some big ads, but not many. I doubt they could. And I happen to know that they don't pay their staff very, very good. Yeah. Very, very well. Yeah. It's very sad. But that's a national.
That's an international thing. The shrinkage, but the result of that, Harvard says, is you get councils that are far less efficient, and in becoming far less efficient, what they do is they cost more. So the rates, the taxes go up. Lewis. Yeah. First of all, it's far less efficient than it was. Yeah. I mean, in 20 years ago, it was a very, very well run council. Yeah. And they were on School Hill. I think it was in Schoolhouse or whatever down here, and they had a first rate chief executive. Yeah, sorry. And now I'm talking about the Sussex Council.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And secondly is our rate that we paid in council tax was half decent. Now, according to the surveys that were shown the other day, we're something like the third or fourth highest in the country. Yeah, and nobody is objecting. Nobody is saying, all we're hearing is these politicians pouncing around, telling us all the marvelous things they've done, which on the slightest examination, particularly from you, is impossible. They can't achieve what they're saying, and yet they're marvelous, they're wonderful. We are here to start to say, hey, come on, if you're doing all these wonderful things, then you better start to prove it. And they don't. Well, you know, last year, I got, particularly because we did have a good mayor, I got very, very close to the mayor. And I did some work with his deputy, who is now the mayor. I'm not going to name her, but she's now the mayor. And there was something at the town hall where she cut me absolutely dead.
Really?
Right? Yeah. They're afraid of anybody asking questions.
Well,
And
they
that's
are,
what we do. No wonder they won't come on. But the fact of the matter is, somewhere, somehow, and not just posting stuff on the internet at the town hall, the council offices, which are in Eastbourne anyway, is they're going to have to start to explain what they're doing to people.
Well, they've got the sort of the Lord Kitchener attitude, and during the Sudan War. Mike said to the newspaper people or the media, "Get out of our way, you swans!"
Yes,
you scums.
Yes, they do. I mean, the first head of the coalition, I think she was a Green or a Lib Dem or whatever, she sat next to me at the last council meeting, and then the one that they actually took over from the Conservatives. And she told me all the things that she thought were wrong. She hasn't changed one. And particularly this cabinet system, which they have, which is iniquitous, because only one or two people have any say in anything. The councillors are there to actually what they do is they pull a string and all their hands go up and down like this. It's absolutely hilarious to go to a council meeting. Those in favour? They're pulling a string.
Well, the thing about the district council now, I think, is really that because of young people all very interested in climate change and renewable energy, they are actually going to sweep the bloody field in the old May 4th elections, because it's their time, isn't it?
Yes,
it's time. It might be passing about, people forget about climate change, bugger it, whatever. But at the moment, I would think that they're going to do very well.
They probably will. But first of all, Stuart, somebody was publicly complaining about this the other day, is only a third of people on the electoral list vote in local elections. Yeah. So you've got 2/3 of people who say they don't care until such time as the council tax comes and it's gone up. And it's too late then. So they don't get involved. Only 70% turn up to national elections. So we are going slowly where something that was so precious and so won by some of our forefathers, the right to vote is just ignored, and it's crazy, absolutely crazy.
If you look at the Greens, right? I reckon nobody's more green than me in this town. I write about the Greens all the time, don't I?
You do.
So, and I haven't got a car, and we eat greens. I'm outside. I eat greens, but all kinds of things. We live a very green life, my wife and I, and yet I can't vote for them, because I think they're managerially incompetent. I told you about the electric cars, haven't I?
Yes.
For example, right back, I'll say again for the listeners or viewers, in 2019, I went to a sustainability meeting run by the council, which was then run by the Greens. And they said, we are going to have zero carbon emissions by 2030. And I put my hand up and said, well, how are you going to do this? And they said, oh, we're going to install lots of electric charging points and plant trees. And I said, right, okay, that should do the thing, because of electric cars. For 4 years, there have only been 8 charging points in Lewes. Okay, 4 years.
Right.
Since 1919. Okay, 24. And then finally, the Lib Dems, just to steal the Green Thunder, they've got 64. They plan to install 64 electric charging points. A lot of those going to New Haven and Seaford. So we're not going to get a load of charging points here anyway. Public one.
No.
And what about this other thing about the Eton development? Eton's got this land in just north of the town, haven't they?
Yes, that's right. It's in that delightful little village.
Yeah. And when the Greens were asked what they wanted to do, they said, "Oh, we're going to abstain." Ha ha.
Yeah. Great. Owned by Eton. Huh? It's owned by Eton.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but in a vote.
That's all where they went to school, probably.
Well, money talks. Yes, we know that, but I don't think many Green people were being sent to Eton.
But I mean,
the fact is the matter. Why did they abstain on the vote? They
exactly.
said, of course, you mustn't do it.
Stuart, I mean, I'm glad we're having this discussion because we're turning it into a wide-ranging discussion over the local government, and we should have done this some time ago. But the fact of the matter is what I've always said is none of the above, based on the movie Brewster's Millions, who said, nobody is worthwhile who's got their name over. And I have argued that we should not have party politics in local government. Now, it changes people. They lose the perspective. They do not come in to try and help as individuals what they believe. What they do is they follow party policy. Now, here is...
Don't you think they get pride of themselves? I'm a councillor.
Oh, yes, they do. But you see...
Not a knighthood, is it?
No, exactly. But they also become dishonest.
Yeah.
Now,
Really?
Now, I've got this in the system, but I just can't find it very quickly. But here we are. This came through my door. Re-elect Graham Clews, Paul Keane, and Imogen Makepeace. Now, individually, they're probably very nice people.
Yeah.
But this says re-elect Graham Clews, Paul Keane, and Imogen Makepeace. Two of them are not councillors.
Really?
Yeah, so that's totally dishonest to say re-elect these two people, because you can't re-elect them, they're not there in the first place. Right? Now, you say, well, does it matter? Yes, it does matter, first of all, because these things should be honest. Yeah. But secondly, this gives the impression that they've got experience, which they haven't. So, I haven't actually. I'm going to check with the bloke that keeps an eye on honesty in elections whether this should be withdrawn, because unless these three, the Greens, these are the Greens. It turns out to be the Greens. I'm not picking on the Greens. I just happened to come across this.
Are you sure? Who's not? Who's not?
No, Imogen Makepeace is.
Yeah.
Right, but Graham Clews and Paul Keane are not members of the council.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Oh, well, this sounds like Northern Ireland, doesn't it?
It does.
Vote early and vote often.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Hang on. Is Graham? Graham Clews says he was a local journalist.
Oh, that's good. That's
interesting.
Yeah.
And Paul Keane is a senior research computer engineer. And he's been involved in local politics, right? But he's not a councillor. Now we've made that charge on the basis of very good information. And if in fact we're wrong, get in touch with us and tell us.
Yeah.
Come on and tell us.
Apprehend us in the street.
Absolutely. Hit us over the head. we both will take off our hats to be hit over the head. But it's that sort of thing that really is it bothers me that people can just slide. There is also, I'm going to raise this tomorrow because I got some photographs, is that one councillor who is on the planning committee has actually got two illegal structures in the garden, the home garden.
Really?
Yeah, so they can't not know that they've broken the law. But the thing is that, as you say, the arrogance that goes with this position is it doesn't mean us. Yeah. It means you, but it doesn't mean us. Yeah. And that's so prevalent amongst politics. And no wonder that, generally speaking, is and the surveys throughout the country show that the confidence in politicians and politics has gone zoom, and not just at national level, but local level as well. And it's about time that they started to realize that and stop pouncing around and starting to say, okay, we have got some things wrong. And what we should be doing is we should be addressing those issues, but they don't. No politician ever makes a mistake.
Now, calm down, or we're going to move to something else now.
Right. I'm calming so that he can get on with something else. Away you go.
Well, it's much more on my patch, isn't it?
Right.
There's amazing stuff about him. If I can open this flipping thing, hang on. Okay. Energy companies, here we go, energy companies, which I know I am very familiar with, as you know. face curbs on forced meter installations. Initial suppliers have agreed to a ban on forcibly installing pre-parent meters in the homes of customers over 85 and will make representations where body cameras as part of a new code of conduct. Suppliers have agreed to fresh guidelines for putting the devices when a household will run up energy after outcry by agents. Right. This is madness. Yes. Over 85. What about the 75s and the 65s?
Yeah. They set arbitrary figures, don't they?
Yeah.
85.
I'm not sure they can count, actually.
Well, let's face it, the Prime Minister said the other day he wants to see people being taught maths between 8 and 18. That nobody can add anymore. And the fact is, he's right.
Yeah. Right, Mr. Eubank, very good idea. At least people can know the difference between 75 and 85.
Yes. But you know, the thing is that they, at national level, it's quite remarkable that they actually sort of estimate this is going to cost 75 million and this is how we're going to pay for it. And then 6 months later well, it's not going to cost 75 million, it's going to cost 100 million. We got our sums wrong. No wonder they're not mathematics. And nothing is worse, of course, than this railway line that is being built to the north. I mean, it's 10 times over its budget.
Oh God! Listen, when I was living in London, I still do, but I mean, on up the top, past green space. The up to what goes right past, you know, and the Euston was the one station, and then the one at North Acton was where I lived. That was the next one, and the arguments about that wretched thing was just unbelievable. Why do you need, you know, now that you've got computers, you can go on. It doesn't matter about time because you can work. It doesn't matter that you save 20 minutes by going on this thing, because in 20 minutes you can do work on the train. So why do you have the flipping train? There's no point.
Stuart, you're right. You know, every time that we get somebody on as a guest, they all say that science and technology and computers and so on are moving on at a hectic pace, to the point where it's making everybody's head spin. Here we are, we're spending billions on a train system, when in fact trains may not be the way of transport in 10 years' time or 15 years' time. Yeah. Incidentally, I got a little sniff, as I haven't been able to check the veracity of it, but I've been given a little sniff that the line from Lewes to Highfield has been approved, that we are going to see that line rebuilt. So it gives another alternative route.
Sounds like the Orphiston's Toy Town now, right, doesn't it?
Well, a lot of people...
I used to take my kids on that one. It's a bluebell, isn't it?
Yeah. I suppose that in some ways, the only thing I would say that is a nice thing about having an alternative is that we've only got a single track from here to Haywards Heath. And so if anything, if a dead cow gets on the line, you've had it. You can't go anywhere.
How'd you come back?
Yeah.
Well, there's a funny one from where I got up in Suffolk, Ipswich, up to Halesworth. And it goes, and you just breathe that sort of, how am I going to get back? Because you have to wait for the Haywards coach to go back again. Quite old England, eh? Keith, I better sort of stop now because we've got other things to do.
Yes, we have. It is now 22:11. We'll right. It will. Let's just play a breather because we haven't interrupted our flow of being very nasty to everybody. But then again, we're nasty people.
No, we're not nasty people.
Are we not? We're not nasty people. We're just being nasty for the sake of this
We're not being nasty. We are investigative journalists. I mean, if we upset people, well, that's too bad, isn't it? Yeah.
That's right. And actually, I mean, just to put you in perspective, if the two of us have been in journalism for over 60 years, and we've kicked around. So he's been to 90 countries. I've been to 60. And we've got some idea of what goes on in the rest of the world and the sort of things that need looking at. And we fall into this trap in Britain of thinking that we're beyond all that we are the good guys. We wear the white hats. Well, the white hats are only worn if, in fact, there are black hats like us saying, what about this and what about that? So don't get too complacent. Here, let's go down to the park. Okay, now Stuart and I have got one or two things to talk about, and we've still got 20 minutes to go on the program. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the segment of our documentary on the racecourse, which was prepared for its proponent, Barry Fuchs, who is trying hard to make sure that it doesn't get swallowed in history and get swallowed by houses. So here we go. Let's have a little look at just while we're ending off our program today.
Vroom, vroom. The other day I felt a warmth between myself and Mole and Ratty, the two little characters from Wind in the Willows, as I sat on the banks of the River Ouse and let it drift by. Vroom, vroom. Today I feel more like Toad of Toad Hall, the animal that was always getting himself into trouble because of his excesses. Vroom. But horsepower is the essence of this episode, because horses played a central part in the history of Lewis. And as might be expected, were often at the centre of violence, adding to the history of a bloody town. Horses, of course, were nothing unique to Britain. Cavalry had been a major part of warfare, and peaceful farming from time to time immemorial. But for Lewis in early times, they were an important part of its economy. The Domesday Book, the first ever audit of England in 1086, records that anyone selling a horse in Lewis should pay to the reeve or estate manager a penny. The buyer also paid a penny. So a horse tax was in place more than 1,000 years ago. And so the horse took centre stage from the earliest of Norman times. I've shown you the tilting grounds where knights on horseback tried to unseat each other. But that was nothing compared to the violence that Lewis races brought to the town. But I get ahead of myself. Lewis was one of the most famous racecourses in history, until 1965. The fourth oldest in the country, racing began in 1727, although some argue there is evidence it was 26 years before that.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Lewes. It's the final race meeting here at Lewes, Monday, September the 14th, 1964. The ground is firm and the wind is straight across the course. The runners for the first race, the Cookmere Apprentices Handicap, are on their way to the start. Saucy Lad representing Tom Masson in the purple with the gold star. Number 11 is Nimberg. And away they go. They're off and racing, and Buzz made a bright start there and leads in the early stages. And now a little bit of a rise as they race past the mile marker and head towards the right-hand turn, which will bring them into the home straight. Closing stages with less than 100 yards left to travel. It's Buzz pulling clear, and Buzz goes on to win by about 3 lengths to Misty River in second, Saucy Lad back in third, Great Lady, Nimberg Wave, Methane, the Wolf, and St. Kieran.
In that year, after almost 300 years of horse racing, it closed down for good, mainly because it had no electricity, no running water, in fact, no facilities at all. Yet in the late 18th century, it attracted royalty, the big gamblers of the day, and it produced some champion racehorses over the years that brought great races and great feats to an otherwise pretty but blustery track atop the Downs. Considered by racing folk as the greatest racehorse of all time, Eclipse raced there in 1769. The Derby winner of 1793, Waxy, was a Lewis-trained horse, as was Charlottetown in 1966. Great jockeys rode there, such as Lester Piggott and Gordon Richards. And Barry, although it started in 1720 or so, you weren't here then, but you were, as a very young boy, involved in this racecourse.
Yeah, I certainly was, yeah. I'd say I was born on race day, 29th of August 1950. My mum's side of the family were all racing people, going back hundreds of years probably, so, you know, my gran used to take us up here.
It's very quiet and serene today, so what was it like on race days up here?
Very, very noisy. Hustle and the bustle of coaches coming up here, cars. I mean, all these places over here were car parks. You had all the horse boxes, the tote men, tic-tac men shouting the odds and everything else. Lots of entertainment going on, you know, and it was very, very busy. A 4-mile race which started right down the bottom of the hill there. The horses used to run right round there as far as you can see, and come back down here to the winning post. Right. They used to have 2 winning posts. They used to have a 5 furlong winning post and a 6 furlong winning post. But what they wanted to, they made the 6 furlong winning post another furlong away from the stands, because they both wanted to start them on the straight. Otherwise it was unfair, so they had a straight run. Right. In 1914, I think it was 14, they shut that down because they found it was too dangerous. And not only that, for the horses to get up that hill. They used to start them from here, they run them down there, round the loop and back again. And that made 4 miles, but it had to be like the best out of 3 or something. Right. So some of them horses run 12 miles just to win a race. They had 10 minutes break, they got back after about 9 or 10 minutes, they'd have a bucket of water, drink and wash down, and back they used to go again. After a while, it just phased out a little bit. It used to be a 3-day meeting in August, and then it got to, it was just going to be a day a year. And it got to the stage where it was just one race, and all the horses in that race were trained in Lewes. And the guy that wrote about it, you know, he said this is probably going to be the last day.
There are many in Lewes who are still resentful that the course was closed. It brought a good deal of cash to the town. Lewes had many racing stables, and a thriving racing community numbered as many as 60 establishments. But perversely, it was responsible for cleaning up the sport, despite suffering a bout of violence. The early part of the 20th century saw the rise of vicious gangs around the country. These gangs often fought each other. But to keep cash in their pockets, they targeted racecourses. They would secretly ease their way into courses and then meet up to viciously attack and rob bookies. Racegoers, and even jockeys. They were feared at race meetings throughout Britain. And so it was on a June afternoon in 1936. London villain James Spinks and his gang turned up at Lewes for an attack on bookies. They gathered, some 30 strong, on the edge of the racecourse, ready to pounce. And pounce they did. They attacked and savagely beat a bookie and managed to rob him. But not known to them, 2 CID officers had been posted in the grounds. The 2 detectives alerted their fellow coppers and raced towards the gang. According to some reports, a rival gang got into the act and all hell broke loose. It must have been some sight. Villains scattering in all directions. Keystone cops were in full chase, and the excited racegoers panicked and dived for cover. But it was the police on this day at Lewes Racecourse who passed the winning post. They managed to nick 16 of the gang, took them to Lewes, where they were sentenced to long prison terms. That put an end to the decades-old practice of course hijacking by these fearless and vicious gangs. A real feather in the cap of the Lewes coppers. Nabbed. Pulling you aside, locals will whisper in your ear that Graham Greene's Brighton Rock was really about Lewes Racecourse. They say the gang fight in his novel was based on the events of Lewes in 1936. To think that Pinky strode this course, what a ghost to have here now.
So the mic's been off, I'm afraid. Never mind. You saw my mouth moving. and we're now coming up to 10:59. So ignore what you didn't hear. We were just recapping what we'd done this morning with the microphone off. So I'm sorry about that. That happens a little bit because with a one-man operation, you do tend to forget to do the 7 things or 8 things that are required of you. But anyway, this is Mirador Television, broadcasting from the White Hart Hotel in Lewes, having a go, as indeed as a watchdog we are duty-bound to do. And if we get silence from the opposition, what we now know is that we've got thousands of viewers, and we're increasing every day. So this message is getting out from us, and if it doesn't get out from the local politicians, and it doesn't get out from the local business community, they only got themselves to blame. So that's us. We'll say goodbye until tomorrow morning, and we will be back. Let's see, it's Thursday, so it's time partway through the day for Liza Page with the alternative point of view, and then we shall go on till the weekend. So this is Mirador Television. Toodle, 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 bim.
Thank you.